Hey Virgo. It's so funny because all of a sudden my cats are so interested in opening things that they can't open. They open the cabinet sometimes, so I think they can open other things. But I want to know if that has anything to do with your reading, because I started another one, but I had to stop. And I just felt like refreshing because it's very interesting. So I just did the Leo reading, cats. So, I mean, let's let that be out there. But they're curious, and I think a part of you is curious, and I think that's the biggest word you can use today. If you can get curious instead of reverting to old patterning right now, you will accomplish a lot more than just your day-to-day tasks. You'll accomplish more than you realize, because sometimes even at the end of the day, you may not feel that way. All information before we actually begin, all information to work with me is below, one-on-one, and as well as the second part / extended to this, which is on Patreon. So this month you have a chance to rekindle where the flame really needs to go. Certain things are out of the question right now. There are certain things that you can have easily, and there are certain things which it's not so easy. And I think it's because you've been hurt before, and something about maybe Mercury being in retrograde in Capricorn is really like making everyone kind of hit a wall. And there's this part of you that yearns, yes, I'm using the word yearns for something more than what you think you can't have, what you already decide for yourself, or what something in your life has decided for you. Because 3 of Swords, 2 of Swords, 10 of Cups, is there is fulfillment. It's possible. There's just something that you're closing yourself off to. The 2 of Wands has no third party involved. That's about you. The 3 of Swords can, and the 10 of Cups totally can, but like it doesn't necessarily mean another person is fulfilling for you. It's you closing yourself off from it before it can actually happen. And yeah, that sometimes gets caught up with like how we were raised, programming, things that you didn't always have control over, and you like to have control over certain things. So now that there are certain things that are coming easier to you, notice where you can spread that throughout your life. Yes, there may be a little work involved at first, especially emotional work. Instead of calling it work, you can just get curious. Like, what if it wasn't that hard? There might be releases along the way. You might feel some things and have to put up with some things about yourself, or feel some things and understand that that's what happens sometimes. But I think that's what's stopping you or blocking this creative flow, because you've had such a flow and you realize, okay, the monetary things are in place for sure, but there's something else lacking, because there's not even no pentacles here out yet. So it could even come from a person who in your life who made it seem maybe hard for you. But the truth is, and this could be for anybody, is that when you are yourself and as you unravel who that is, the right people come along the way. And that's something you can begin to believe or play with and see if that actually works for you. There's this part of you that has when you see something open, an opportunity come your way, you have a tendency to a tendency to overwork yourself before you realize what you need sometimes, or overexert yourself before you realize how much time you actually need to yourself, or how much recovery time, or you realize how you like where you want to go, and if you want to get there as fast as you want to get there, you have to put certain disciplines in your life. Maybe in order to stay healthier, you need to eat better. If it's not eating, it's maybe not going out as much. Maybe it's doing, like not out making yourself obligated to certain things unless it's like emergency based only. And I talked a little bit about that too in this season, because this season can push you to do and to go and get where it takes, whatever it takes, to reach that next level, whatever that means to you, because that's not necessarily a general thing. Everyone is different in that way. And this month, you realize that there's certain things you need to be vocal about. There's certain things you can be vocal about. There's certain things that you need to express that may have been kind of pushed down or held back by at a certain at a certain time in your life. And it's maybe a misplacement of value. Again, circling back to the beginning, there's a lot going good, of course, but there's there's a few things that are like blocked perhaps. And this month is like, everyone's running into this. Like what is the block? What is this thing? And you have the capacity to deal with it now. You have the capability to deal with it now. And you get even more comfortable with this understanding that you have, this way of approaching what you want and what you need. And by the end of the month, if you give yourself the time, you will find the words, you will find exactly the line that you want to go down, or what has been missing, what you have been blocked from, which is why this has been missing. It's not just like it's missing, you're missing something. Like, no, you're not missing anything. You're just blocked from what is really necessary. And we need to create space in order for things to come into our lives, right? So that's why there's a lot of maybe alone time, or a lot of solitude, and like just going and doing the things you really like to do, maybe giving yourself a break. You will regain inspiration again, and just let Capricorn season work on you. What are Capricorns inspired by? They are inspired by the process. They like seeing improvement. They like seeing things get better. And it's not just like positive stuff. It's just like they like seeing efficiency. Like that's sexy to them. Efficiency is sexy to a Capricorn. Ask any Capricorn or just watch any of them. And I think what they give you this month is this opportunity to become very attentive to yourself and attentive to what you really mean, and to say how you feel and what you really mean. And even if it's just this deep conversation between you and whatever like the universe source is to you, it's this asking of, okay, you want these certain things, but if you're unwilling to go here, but that keeps coming up, then how do you think maybe that's the bridge to where you actually want to go? Because a lot of times when we know what we want, because most of you know something of what you want. And I will say, for those of you who don't, it might be really important to start small in something that you're inspired by, and finding a hobby that could also make you money if you want. But for you to understand that this efficiency will help the way your body even moves, the way that you feel on a day-to-day basis, depending on how your body feels, because fulfilling quote-unquote obligations, or things that we hold ourselves to in any given moment, is a responsibility that we take upon ourselves to fulfill it. And you're someone who doesn't just not want to do things. You're someone who even feels bad for having to cancel plans or not want to commit to something. And I think you've been getting better at that as you age. it's just important to realize that the older of all of the earth signs has a slower process than you. And if you can take note this month of that process and implement it in your own way, you know, then you may be very, very surprised and pleasantly surprised on how you decide to incorporate that. We'll talk about more of that in the next part, but how that also like moves you so much forward with your thought process and your thinking, that regardless of what you were held to or what you've held yourself to, or what even beyond that, you choosing, remember what we talked about in the beginning, it can be easy to go back to things that made you once feel comfortable. And you don't have to take my advice for this, but if you go back to that, it's going to be the same. It's time to choose a little different. Sometimes we have to get used to things that are healthy for us, because the things that weren't felt so right and good and easy. Sometimes a healthy thing doesn't always feel good at first or feel right, because your perception of that was skewed and your body's perception of that is skewed. So the clearer you can get with your body, especially you, and for all my Virgo moons out there, you need to be honest with yourself. You don't have to be honest with anyone else, but you gotta be honest with yourself. At least start there. And by end of the month, you'll be speaking in real time probably shit into your existence. I'm just saying. So to wrap up, to just wrap this up, look at this. You grow, Virgo. This is growth. That's all this is. Ask a Capricorn. All information to work with me is below. It's the second part and extended, and we will see you next month.